So here's a sitch on the ATLBox Score today. We have Mr. Ned Kasich on the show. That's towards the middle, towards the middle-ish of the podcast. At the beginning, we get into what happened over the weekend with St. Paddy's Day. We talk about a lot of Irish stuff at the beginning of the show. We even have Frank DeBoer, Atlanta United head coach, stop by. So be sure to check that out. And this is the ATLBox Score. You're listening to Recapping the Weekend. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATLBox Score as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you or ATLBox Score, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there. And there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them. But Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. You know, I don't know how your commute was coming in today. I know that you were coming to work a little bit earlier than you wanted to, and it was pretty much a waste of time while you came into work so early.
So the commute was beautiful.
I bet.
At 7 o'clock in the morning.
So no one was on the roads?
Not enough people to make a difference.
Interesting, because I take Marta into work because we do record in Midtown Atlanta. We are ITP. Is that the right?
That's right.
Okay, we're ITP all the way, even though both of us are OTP.
Right.
We live outside the perimeter, but this show is recorded in Atlanta.
Exactly.
In Midtown Atlanta. We're just like a block from the Fox Theater. I can literally. It's like you say, it's a kind of a pitch shot or a wedge shot away. But anyways, I'm getting a little bit off the rails here. I got off the train and I had to walk like 5 or 6 blocks, and I was surprised. I was just like coming in because like the train station's usually near the office, so it's like only have to walk up a hill and stuff like that. But I walked straight down Peachtree Street, the main street here, and there was nobody there. Kind of like your situation at 7 o'clock in the morning. There was really no one on the roads.
Exactly.
But you would think that it's like there would be people on the roads. Like I would think that there would be a little bit more foot traffic on Peachtree Street, because I know people here. I mean, I know this is a heavily vehicle city.
Right.
Heavily commuted city from a vehicle standpoint. But I know there's a lot of foot traffic on Peachtree Street. But it was like The Walking Dead. It was like I was like that I was Rick, you know, like
Rick.
Yeah, I was Rick. Hoping that it's like I wouldn't be calling it, like I wouldn't be making enough noise where a bunch of walkers would just come out. I mean, like in that series too, it's like they showed the most like scenic views of Atlanta, but it was like just creepy how like deserted it was. And that was kind of like my commute to the office, because I got out because, I mean, had to run a couple errands. You know how I am and stuff. Absolutely. But yeah, it was just weird. But then I realized, oh yeah, it's the day after St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. If you haven't realized too, there's actually a lot of Irish roots that come out of Georgia. So St. Patrick, we don't like dye anything green like Chicago does. But actually the fountains in downtown usually get dyed green. Have you ever seen those fountains in Woodruff Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, they get dyed green.
Nice.
I didn't see it this weekend, but yeah. So I think everyone was just hungover.
That makes sense.
If you were hungover or you were you took part in the festivities because of the weekend, we want to hear about that in the comment section, because you were probably one of those people that made Peachtree Street a little bit easier to commute today to work.
Yeah.
Like I thought Monday, I thought there would be a lot more people out and about and going to work and stuff like that, but it seems like this is like a day where people are just like called out sick,
yeah, they're recovering.
Yeah, or
from
it's
all
like
that green beer that they drank.
Right. Especially at that Irish bar that's down the street from us. I walked by that yesterday, Steve, and like there were literally people dancing in the streets there.
Whoa! Were they doing like the Irish dances, like the river dance?
No, they're getting down to like
Bruno Mars.
No, not even that. I mean, I can't remember who the artist is.
Yeah.
I'm getting to that age where where like this music is starting to date me.
But it'd be cool if they were doing like, dancing to Celtic music, like.
No, they weren't dancing to Celtic music. They had like some sort of like poppy, hip hop ish like type of thing,
like
and they're
House
just
of Pain.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Every Irish guy,
or the Migos.
Every Irish guy I knew back in the army always had to have some sort of either the Boston Celtics logo tattooed on their arm, or House of Pain, or some sort of 4-leaf clover or something like that. I was just like, okay, I just want to open up a tattoo parlor in some Irish district, and like, here are the 4 things I can do for you: Celtics, Notre Dame.
I was gonna say that. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish guy?
Basically, a 4-leaf clover and the House of Pain logo. And I'll be playing House of Pain on loop all night.
Or Lou Holtz with like a shamrock in the background, or like a Catholic cross thing in the background.
Okay. How about this? I jump around. I jump, I get down.
I don't know if Lou Holtz is, maybe Your roommate Dave would probably know this. I wonder if he's Irish.
I guess he's an honorary Irish.
He's
now.
either Irish or Catholic.
Can't he be both?
I don't know. I don't know why I just randomly thought about Lou Holtz.
Because he's like the epitome of Notre Dame, dog.
He is pretty. I mean, if you won a national championship, yeah. I mean, him and Newt Rockne, which I think Newt Rockne was both.
Or Rudy. Rudy.
I think it's funny. People that don't really know about that much about Notre Dame always like go to Rudy.
Yeah.
Even though he was a fictional character.
Was he? I thought he was real.
No, he actually.
He was
real, but the pretty much like the story that the movie that is fictional.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of like I hate to say this. I love this movie. It's kind of like Braveheart. William Wallace was real, and he was a Scottish folklore hero.
That's because.
But the actual movie about him was
Alex,
like total fiction.
There's a difference between a documentary and a regular movie.
Right.
If you want to go to find out what really happened, you don't go watch Vice. You go watch a documentary on Vice.
I guess I can bring this up too, since we're talking about St. Patrick's Day. Like, I found the truth about because I was interested. I always liked that movie Black Mass for some reason with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, with him as
Whitey Bulger. So I actually looked up like what actually happened, and
it's pretty hardcore, huh?
I know.
Whitey Bulger, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, but I mean, he was a Sox fan.
Most gangsters are.
So yeah.
You know what? Just before you move on from Rudy was the first person to have his parents pay to get him into the school.
Really? You know that for sure?
No, but just like this scandal that's out where parents are paying for their kids who never even played the sport. That's Rudy. Like, Rudy, you'll go in there. Like, no, guys, really, it's okay. I don't need to play.
Gosh. I think before going further, let me just let you know you're listening to Atlanta's newest sports podcast. This is the ATLBox Score. I'm Alex Berger, and alongside me is Mr. Steve Choi. He's had a really early morning. And again, if you like what you heard so far, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But this is a podcast all about Atlanta sports and or whatever just kind of trips our trigger.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, like Rudy. I mean, we're somewhat staying related. But to stay on subject, I kind of had a feeling this would happen. The Atlanta Legends lost pretty bad to San Antonio this past weekend. You also have the March Madness stuff, which we do have Ned Kasich on the show, and we're going to get into all that with Selection Sunday happening yesterday. So we want to bring Ned on. He has some interesting picks on the area of the bracket. So if you're filling out a bracket right now, listen to Ned Kasich. He could probably win you some money. So didn't you think so when we had him on? Like, his interesting picks, like he had like, I mean, it's not that great if you're a Florida fan having him picking Nevada over the Gators. Obviously, he has Duke in the Final Four. And, And what was your take on it? Because I know you're kind of a college basketball guy.
Well, first of all, I'm disappointed that there's not that many California teams that made it. I think
there's like Arizona State right now in the Pac-12 that it's like they're crossing their fingers. Yeah. Like
I saw, and I could be wrong. I think there's actually only one California team, and guess what team that is? At least the one that I noticed.
What's that?
UC Irvine. Like, whoa!
Actually, I knew a guy from UC Irvine who was a water polo player.
Okay.
And that's the only sport he really knew about from a spectator sport.
Okay.
Like the next sport was like surfing. I mean, this guy was the epitome of like SoCal.
Oh, he's SoCal.
He's SoCal.
Reunion.
I mean, he looked like he could be an Abercrombie & Fitch model. But anyways,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, he was the epitome of California. And I was like, do you know about USC? Because this one USC was back, like, well, they were pretty hot with Bush and Liner. And he's like,
Absolutely.
I've never heard of USC.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I said, this is one of those things. So yeah, not a great morning if you're a Legends fan with Aaron Murray. Give that time. I mean, that was one of the good teams in the league. Also, too, Atlanta United seems to tie again. And guys, we just talked to Atlanta United fans right now. We do have Frank DeBoer on the set today. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Where's he at?
I don't know. I think he's coming in soon. He might be late.
Wow. That's big time, buddy.
Yeah, that's big time.
Looking forward to that one.
So, yeah. Well, this is just a rebuilding phase. This is what happens in sports. All teams go through this. Not saying this is. I don't think this is going to be a rebuilding season for Atlanta United, but it's like they're still trying to work out the kinks and, but that logo with that star I get the stars, like when you win a championship, you get that, but it's like with that red and black background, that kind of looks pretty communist.
Whoa.
With that gold star and the gold background, that, you know, it kind of reminds me of either like China or North Korea or something like that when you see that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Just agreeing with me.
Yeah. Reminds me of my days working for a Chinese restaurant.
Oh, really? Yeah, you brought that up before.
As an indentured servant.
I'm not going to ask. But anyways, that's, yeah, I think Frank's here.
I'll go let him in.
Okay. So, Frank, how are you doing? You knew this has been a rough couple of days trying to figure out formations, and I just don't get it. Like, Philly was very, very organized. Like when they tried to get rid of the other football player, Nick Foles. They were very organized. Like when they threw snowballs at Santa Claus back in the day. That's how organized. Like when they got Bryce Harper in their contract.
Frank, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What do you think of the city of Philadelphia?
I've never been. I was like, is Philadelphia? Is it in Greece or is it in? I mean, I just don't know.
Gotcha.
But I mean,
this is why Atlanta United's not winning.
I didn't know why they're not winning. I mean, we got the good ball club in the nice stadium with the Mercedes-Benz, which I own one. But you know, the formations, they just like it just looks very awkward. Like.
Gotcha.
Like it looks, it just looks very awkward when we line up in the formations and Joseph Martinez. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, Joseph, speak English. I can't understand your Spanish.
Whoa.
I mean that's been one of the big big things with being the head coach here.
How did you feel when the fans were booing you?
I was like, what is this? I mean, we trying our best, and you boo me. I thought we had a better relationship with the fan base. Then I look at a lot of the fans that are playing. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'd never have you on the team. You I mean, you 20 pounds overweight and have the beard but thank you for coming to the football. I mean, I appreciate you coming to the football game.
Yeah, you probably heard a lot of like Harry Potter spells.
Who's this Harry Potter?
I don't know, but you probably heard.
I don't know Harry Potter. I think my children. I think the children like read the books, but I never got into Harry Potter. He wasn't a football player.
Oh, he's a Quidditch player.
I don't. What is the Quidditch? I don't get that. This is ridiculous. I'm not coming back here. This is a ridiculous interview. So that was Frank DeBoer.
Oh, thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Let me
Appreciate
show
you.
out.
Appreciate you coming. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I have to go back to this Marietta. I mean, but it's cool. We have like the Avengers like training gun. That's what he looks like.
Whoa.
Well, enjoy your drive up to Marietta. By the way, you just kind of come out here. What was that street where you go to 7? Oh, actually go the way Steve goes. Piedmont 10th Street to 75.
Good job, buddy.
So that was Frank DeBoer on what's going on with Atlanta United in the Philly series. Good job there, buddy, with the interview and carrying me. I mean, I just kind of like.
You just sat there and just let me answer all the
Right? Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just gotta hand the ball off to the people that can make the big plays for you.
I don't think he was very happy with my questions, though.
I don't think so either. But I mean, who is? With like, I mean, not. I mean, like, I mean, from a media standpoint, like, who's, which coach is it? Which seems happy and enthused to answer questions?
Yeah, none of them.
Oh, when they're winning, but.
True.
So, but even then, they're kind of. You have the Nick Saban stare, like, really, you're gonna ask me that? Like, really, Maria Taylor? You're still asking me about quarterbacks?
Exactly. Like, really?
Like, really? Even though I was producer answers question. Oh, man. Having a little bit too much fun, but right now, we are actually going to bring on Ned Kasich. And again, if you enjoyed this, we kind of got off the rails there and just trying to have a little fun with the impressions. Having Frank on the show. So, this is the ATLBox Score podcast. I'm Alex Berger. Along join me with Steve Choi. You could help us out here if you like what you heard so far. Like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us what you thought about booing fans of Atlanta United, or what you thought about Frank DeBoer coming on the show. That was huge. It's huge for the show.
It was awesome, man.
I know.
It's
It's
the
awesome.
biggest guest you've had, except for
It is.
outside of Bain.
Outside of what?
Bain,
Oh, that was another show.
right?
That was another show I had. We'll talk about that later.
Eons ago.
Right. I mean, I still get calls from him. He wants to come back during football season.
I think you should bring him on.
Yeah. The guy that got me fired at another gig. So with that being said, right now we're actually I got a little scatterbrained for a second. If you listen to the beginning of the podcast, I repped Spaces in advertisement, but Spaces right now for a limited time offer, if you use promo code Alex for a designated desk or an office, you'll get 15% off when you sign for a 12-month agreement. So great deal they got going on right now. Don't you agree, buddy?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a huge discount.
That is a huge discount. I'm still trying to work to see if we can get like free printing. See if we can get like free printing for you for a month, but still working on that. So yeah, check out spacesworks.com. Also too, check out Regis. What's the website for Regis?
regus.com. Regis.
Oh, it's just Regis.
Just Regis, buddy.
Just Regis. Okay, cool. So with that, we're going to bring on Mr. Ned Kasich to get into some March Madness talk. This is the ATL Box Score, Atlanta's newest sports podcast. Now we just want to bring on to the conversation, since it is appropriate that yesterday was Selection Sunday, that we want to help you in your brackets. If you're still filling out your brackets, we want to help you win some money. And we have Mr. Ned Kasich that's going to help you do it. Ned, how are you doing today, man?
Well, now I'm feeling a lot more pressure that you're guaranteeing people I'm going to be winning them money, but we'll see what we can do. Hopefully break down this bracket as best we can. We got there's some real interesting matchups. I know we'll get to those, but I think it's going to be a pretty good tournament.
I feel like that commercial that was on ESPN that ESPN played a couple of years ago, where it was like you were just randomly selecting teams off of doing like random things like shooting darts or seeing what's gonna stick. I feel like it's this way. So I feel like it's this way with this tournament every single year. So no pressure, but yeah, we just wanted to, before we get into that though, conference tournaments lived up to their expectation. I think they actually exceeded their expectations, especially on Friday and Saturday with the SEC tournament in the semifinal round. So I first want to get into that and get your thoughts on Duke, North Carolina, because you finally got one, and that game just went down to the wire.
Yeah, I think more than anything, it proved, how legit UNC is. For, when you get a Zion back, and I know it was only game 2 for him, but, I mean, he looked about as healthy as we've seen all year. For UNC to play that well and come up just a point short, I think speaks a lot about who UNC is as a team. Cam Johnson's shot the ball extremely well. Kobe White continues to play well. When we talk about some seniors like Kenny Williams and Luke May on their last go-round. So, I know Duke won that game, and, they both ended up getting 1 seed. But, that's a Final Four type game. The way the bracket's set up, those two wouldn't meet till the championship, I don't think. But, those are 2 Final Four worthy teams, no doubt about it. And then, honestly, in the other semifinal in the ACC with Florida State and Virginia, those are also 2 Final Four teams. Florida State winning by 10, I think, shocked everybody.
Right.
But, maybe for Virginia, that's not the worst loss to kind of regroup and see where you are. And, Florida State is a really good team. They're 27-6, and really before that win, nobody was talking about them too much. So, they're going to have some really, really strong momentum going into the tournament. And just kind of looking at the way the bracket's set up, I think Florida State could, again, make a pretty deep run like they did last year.
Were you surprised that North Carolina was a 1 seed? Because I definitely was. I thought losing to Duke, not winning the ACC, that they were probably going to be in a 2 seed, and that was probably the best place for them to be. But now, man, the pressure's on for UNC. Yeah,
I just think the committee really liked the ACC this year. To get 3 1 seeds. 2 4 seeds with Florida State and Virginia Tech, and then I think they ended up with 7 teams in the tournament. I just think they understand how good that conference is, and when you really think about the players playing in those games, and obviously the coaches and just how these programs have been over the last 5 or 10 years, I think it's understandable. I would have thought it either, although with Auburn winning the SEC, I think I took away Tennessee or Kentucky from getting a 1 seed. A little bit surprised, the winner of the Big Ten, with it being Michigan versus Michigan State, didn't get a 1 seed. But, I think, again, you see how highly they think of the ACC, with Gonzaga getting that last 1 seed with their best win coming over Duke, who was the ACC champion.
Right. Now I want to shift attention to the SEC, because that was a heck of a SEC tournament. You saw that the teams that were supposed to lose lost, so there wasn't like an underdog story, but at the same time, like those semifinal games on Saturday really stood out. You had Florida getting that NCAA bid on Friday with their whole football team watching, and just a lot. I just feel like this was a great SEC tournament because you didn't know what was going to happen by like Saturday morning. It was a toss up between Auburn and Florida in that game, and it was kind of a toss up between Tennessee and Kentucky. You just didn't know who was gonna win come Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think the SEC really showed how good of a conference it is in this tournament. We talked about Florida. You mentioned Florida getting in, knocking off LSU in the quarters. I mean, that was a huge. They were down. Florida was down 10 points at halftime, and basically said our season's on the line if we don't get something figured out, and came back to win. And then even Tennessee knocking off Mississippi State in the quarterfinals. That was a single-digit game. Mississippi State ended up getting a 5 seed out of that. So I just think the SEC is a really good conference. The Auburn, obviously, who won it. We talked about them getting hot last week and how well they had played, and for them to knock off Tennessee twice within a week, I think really bolstered their resume, especially when they had a little bit of a dip at midseason. I think most people would have thought that Tennessee-Kentucky semifinal, that winner was basically going to be the conference champion. But, I mean, Auburn came out ready to play. They shot the ball lights out. They played the whole first half without their best player, Jared Harper, who picked up 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes. And Auburn's, bench guys came up huge and played roles that were crucial for them to win. And, for Auburn, as long as Chuma Okeke keeps playing the way he's playing, they're going to be a tough out. They're a lot healthier coming into the tournament this year than they were last year.
With Tennessee losing the way they did, it seems like though Tennessee, out of the one team in the SEC that plays and gels together like a team, I would say that's Tennessee. But at the same time, I just want to know, has your opinion changed at all? Do you think that, because you said back, I think it was in January, that they could possibly be a team that could make a run for a national championship. Has your opinion changed about Tennessee at all this weekend, or do you still feel like that they were either just tired or fatigued, or I don't know what happened to them against Auburn yesterday, but what's your thoughts on Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of turned into an Auburn team that was just playing great basketball and was on a mission to prove that last year's, early exit was a fluke and that their, mid-season, 4 or 5 game losing streak was a fluke. But, I definitely feel like Kentucky. I mean, Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams, I mean, that's arguably one of the best, 1-2 punches in the country. And then, Bowden, Turner, and Bone at the guard, any one of them can go off on any given day for, 20, 25 points and be a factor with Williams and Schofield. So, I still like Tennessee. We can get into the bracket where they run into some tough games. I don't know if they will win a national championship, but I'm certainly not like down on them with the first or second round loss. I still think they're a Elite Eight Final Four contender.
Mm-hmm. Now, does it look like Kentucky is going to be one of those underlooked teams that, because of their exit out of the SEC tournament, do you think that this Kentucky team could possibly reach the Elite Eight or beyond?
Yeah, I still really like this Kentucky team. They're getting Reed Travis back now. I know he played in the conference tournament, but he missed the last 4 or 5 games before that. A little bit like Zion Williamson. And so to get him back is a huge boost for them, not just for their post presence, but leadership. He's a 5th-year senior who transferred over from Stanford. He's played in the NCAA tournament. He's played in NITs. So he's got some valuable experience that these guys can definitely use and bank on. So, again, we'll get into my bracket. I think Kentucky is a Final Four team. They're in there with UNC and Auburn and a couple other really. I think that's one of the tougher brackets. But I still think Kentucky is extremely talented. And I don't think it's Kentucky teams in the past where they have so many pro prospects that they're looking forward to the NBA draft, looking past the tournament. I think this group of Kentucky freshmen and sophomores are really invested in being in the moment in college basketball in the tournament.
So you also think this Auburn team is the could be a Final Four team too?
Yeah, I do. The Final Four part, I think it's a little tough because they are so 3-point reliant, and if they hit a day where they're shooting, 5 of 35 from deep, that's going to be a tough day. But if they decide that, hey, we're not scoring from deep and we got to get in the paint, I think they have the players to do that. It might be a little bit of a mindset change, but again, this Auburn team is playing well and they're deep. I mean, they play 8, 9, 10 guys who can put up meaningful minutes and score some points when you need them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Speaking of this Auburn team too, I gotta give a shout out to Gerald Harper, who was he was raining threes against Tennessee, but in that Florida game, I mean, he had one of I guess you could kind of call it a clutch play, but I mean, he closed that game for the Gators, just shutting them out with getting that 3-point shot at the end with 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, I mean, Harper's a playmaker, and that's what he does for this team. Earlier in the year, he hit the layup against Kentucky that everyone thought was going to win the game and ended up not winning the game. But, Harper's used to making clutch plays. He's been in these moments before. He's a Georgia boy, so, he's played in big moments.
So he's a Georgia kid.
Yep, growing up in high school. I believe he went to Pebblebrook High School. Don't quote me on that. It might have been Colin Sexton. I might be getting those two confused. But he's a playmaker, great guard, a little bit undersized, but for the college game, Harper and his running mate Bryce Brown are pretty tough combo. And Brown being a senior, kind of last go of things, I think really drives this team to play well late in the year.
Well, you did a good job with going off the dome because I'm actually looking at the Auburn roster right now, and he did go to Pebblebrook. So
there we go.
Just to give you a little bit fact checked right there. But let's talk about your Dukies. In that ACC commercial, I don't know if you've seen the ACC commercials. I'm pretty sure you have for the ACC network on ESPN and everything like that. That hand thing that the student section does, I think is annoying, but that's my personal opinion. But it actually looked cool in that commercial. So with that being said, Zion Williams just went off his first game, got to beat the rival from down the street in his second game, and then just took Florida State out of the game. So just tell me what you thought of Duke's performance and your boy Zion Williams and how he performed.
Yeah, he played great. There's not a whole other ways to say that. I mean that 13 for 13 game and his return was out of this world. But Duke's still kind of figuring out kind of how to play with them, kind of everyone's roles, because so much has changed throughout the year. I mean,
right.
They missed Zion for those games. They missed Trey Jones for those games. Marquise Bolden was out for the ACC tournament. So their bench is some different guys are playing. I mean, Jordan Goldwire played 28 minutes in the semifinals and probably another 14 or 15 in the finals, and that's a kid who really coming into the year, not many people expected to get more than 2 or 3 minutes a game behind Trey Jones. Alex O'Connell coming in playing some different minutes. We saw Jack White and Delorier early in the year, and we see a little bit less of them now. This Duke team's still kind of trying to figure out where everybody fits in. Obviously, hopefully the 16th seed will be an easy first round game, and then VCU versus USF will be will be a challenge, but again, they should easily be able to handle. So hopefully after those two games, they'll be back in their flow. They haven't played, as well as they have in the early part of the season in the past couple months. But I don't think they played their best basketball yet. I think they're just trying to continuously adjust the way they're playing and their style of play and who's getting on the court, and who's getting what minutes and playing at what roles. Right.
Before we move on to getting into the brackets and how it all lays out, I just want to know, do you feel like the Florida Gators at all could be kind of a dark horse team that could surprise some people?
I'm going to say no, because I think they have a terrible first-round matchup with Nevada. And the fact that Nevada somehow got a 7 seed, I think is, a little ridiculous. I know they lost in their conference semifinals and they had, 4 losses, but for Nevada to get a 7 seed, I think is a shame, and they're going to be playing pretty ticked off. So, I don't know. I mean, if Florida did win that, they'd have to play Michigan in the second round. So, while I think Florida is a good team, I just think they got a tough draw, and I don't see them really being able to get out of the first weekend, even if they win their first round game.
Well, good news for me. So I just had to put that to bed for all those Florida fans out there, because you know how Florida fans can be. They can have visions of grandeur. So, with that being said,
I'm sure they'll find me on Twitter if I'm wrong.
Yeah, probably, but they're Gator fans, so they have a terrible lot in life. Anyways, let's just dive right in, and I just want to get your. Let's just start off and with the brackets, and hopefully Ned can help win you some money if you're kind of like on the bubble. Who do I choose between LSU and Yale? But yeah, Ned, what do you think of the East bracket and how it lays out?
Yeah, so I think the East bracket is top heavy. You mentioned LSU. I think they're a good team. So kind of just some notes I made in the East bracket. I think Virginia Tech is a 4 seed versus St. Louis. I think that's going to be a pretty good game. I kind of fell in love with St. Louis watching them in the A-10 tournament. I think they're playing well. They're playing with good momentum. They're playing hard. So I think that's a tough game for Virginia Tech in the first round. So we'll see where that goes. I've got St. Louis in my bracket, but you got to have some upsets in there somewhere. So
yeah,
we'll see where that goes. Justin Robinson is coming back to play for Virginia Tech, so that could give them a boost, or it could be kind of a, maybe a little bit of rust and throws them off, and then all of a sudden it's a close game late. I like Duke coming out of their kind of quadrant with VCU and UCF. I do like UCF. I'm glad they made it in, but I don't see them knocking off Duke. This. I've always liked that Mississippi State team. I've kind of talked about them all year. They can score the ball really well. I've got Duke, Mississippi State in the Sweet 16 matchup, and then in the bottom half of that bracket, I got LSU and Michigan State.
Okay.
And I actually like LSU in that game. I think the SEC is a little more tested in the Big Ten this year. I think they score the ball a little more, and they're a little more athletic. And I just think Michigan State playing without some key pieces is tough. I've got Duke coming out of the East, knocking off LSU in that Elite 8 round.
Interesting. Michigan State versus LSU. So that should, if you choose LSU, according to Ned, you should get a hundo. Also, too, I have seen the University of St. Louis.
Yep.
It's right in the middle of downtown if you've ever been to St. Louis. But anyways, let's move on to the South bracket, where Virginia is that 1 seed. And by the way, I think I can't remember if we mentioned it while we were recording or not, but it's crazy though that the ACC that it's pretty much that it's like your resume. If you're an ACC team and you're one of the top tier ACC teams, that it's like you're good to be a 1 seed. So yeah, tell me what you think of the South bracket. Obviously Tennessee is in there, so that would be an interesting matchup if you can get a Tennessee-Virginia matchup.
Yeah, and that's where I think this bracket is headed, to Virginia and Tennessee playing each other in the Elite 8. I know them being the 1 and 2 seeds isn't necessarily the sexiest pick, but I just think it makes sense. For UVA, they're likely going to play the winner of the Wisconsin-Kansas State game. Oregon could maybe upset Wisconsin in that 5-12 range, but I think the Pac-12 just isn't great. And as long as Wisconsin can score the ball, which isn't always easy for them, they should advance. And then, for Tennessee, they're likely going to play the winner of, Villanova and Purdue. Villanova does have St. Mary's in the first round, which I think St. Mary's could win. I think they've been very inconsistent. But I just don't see this experienced Villanova group losing in the first round. I have them losing to Purdue in the second round, but again, that's a game that could go either way. And then Tennessee is going to play the winner of Iowa-Cincinnati, which should be a round game. I like Cincinnati. They've got Cumberland is kind of their star guy. Iowa's a little more team-oriented, and I think sometimes in the NCAA tournament, if you have a star, that's going to help you if he plays well, as opposed to kind of just a bunch of role players. I've got Tennessee and Virginia. I like Virginia getting to the Final Four with that group. Just kind of coming back for revenge. And again, their only losses are to ACC teams, and with no other ACC teams in this bracket, it bodes well for the Cavaliers.
Right. Let's talk about the West bracket because I was talking to one dude yesterday, and I said if you put money on a team, I feel like, and especially how this tournament always plays out, usually you have the dominant team getting to the championship and winning the championship, but if you want to bet on chaos, I would probably bet that Gonzaga wins the national championship.
I don't hate that take. I think they are flying under the radar. They had that surprising loss to St. Mary's in their conference tournament. But, to me, the West bracket is kind of the most fun bracket. I think that's where the most chaos
I agree with that, too.
Because, I think while Gonzaga is good, I think they're definitely the weakest one seed. And so, I've got them, going to the Sweet 16, but I've got them falling to Florida State there because I do think this Florida State team is really good. I think the 5-12 matchup in this game of Marquette versus Murray State is going to be the game of the first round. Murray State obviously has Ja Morant, who, I think most people have heard of. If you haven't, he's likely to be the number 2 pick in the NBA draft behind Zion. He averages like 25 points and 10 assists a game. And he's going against Marquette, who's got Marcus Howard as their point guard, and Marcus Howard averages 25 points a game. It seems like he can explode for 35 almost any time he wants. So that's going to be an unreal game. I have Murray State winning in that one, mostly kind of just because I want to see Ja Morant play 2 games. But I think that's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
And then in the bottom half, I mentioned it. Nevada being a 7 seed is criminal, in my opinion. They got, that's a shame that they're a 7 seed, and I think they're gonna play ticked off, and they're gonna play more like a 3 or 4 seed than a 7 seed. So my Elite 8 out of the West is Florida State versus Nevada, and I've got Florida State winning that one. So that'll be interesting. Texas Tech as the 3 seed in the West, I think can fly under the radar. I've got them in the Sweet 16. Falling to Nevada, but that's definitely the West is a very fun bracket, and I think just about any team 1 through 8, with Syracuse being the 8th seed, I think could be a safe pick to come out of there.
I look at that, and I just want to entertain this for a second. I know you kind of you shut this down totally, but if Florida somehow upsets Nevada and makes it into the next round, Gator fans, you're going to get mauled by Michigan.
Yeah,
they don't.
That one would be interesting because I think it would really depend on if Florida shot the ball well, because Michigan is known for their defense, and the reason I have Michigan losing to Nevada in the second round is Nevada can score the crap out of the ball, and Michigan can't. Michigan is reliant on keeping you under 60 points, under 65 points to have a chance. And Nevada's a team that averages, 75 plus points per game. So I think that's a tough matchup. I just don't know how good Michigan is, and as a 2 seed to get that Nevada-Florida second round game that's a tough draw for them.
Right. I just see that because the Gators aren't really They don't really make friends with Big Ten teams for some reason. But anyways, moving on. Let's go to the Midwest, which is the king of that hill is North Carolina right now, and it would be interesting to see a North Carolina-Auburn matchup come out of there. Also, they could possibly at the end of that bracket, you could see a team like Ohio State coming out of there, out of the middle. Well, if they get past Kentucky, for example, but you could see a possible North Carolina-Kentucky matchup coming out of that bracket to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this is the toughest bracket, actually.
Interesting.
Even with UNC, I think their second round game, Utah State versus Washington. Washington won the Pac-12. Utah State, sneaky 28-6, knocked off Nevada twice this year. They're a pretty good mid-major program. So I think UNC advances to the Sweet 16, but I think that second round game could get interesting. The second round game of likely Auburn versus Kansas will be a good one, and that'll be a little bit of Kansas maybe has a little more talent. Auburn has a little more experience. Kansas has a little more tournament experience than Auburn. So I think that could be a really good game. I've got Auburn winning that one, playing UNC in the Sweet 16. And then on the bottom half of my Sweet 16, I have Iowa State playing Kentucky. I think Iowa State's going to have a battle to get past Houston. I think Houston's going to have a battle to get past Georgia State in the first round, especially the way Georgia State can shoot the three ball. But I do think Houston, coming off a loss in their conference tournament, is going to have a little extra motivation. And then the 7th seed is Wofford, that's a heck of a seed for Wofford to get. And I've got them knocking off Seton Hall. And while I think they can push Kentucky, I think Kentucky's athleticism and just natural ability probably wins that game. And then I have Kentucky beating Iowa State, and I like Auburn knocking off UNC. I think Auburn's hot right now. I think they're going to stay hot for a while. And so I've got an SEC Midwest final with Auburn versus Kentucky, and I got Kentucky heading into the Final Four.
Yeah, no bias for wanting to see North Carolina get knocked off there or put North Carolina knocked. No bias at all. You mentioned Georgia State. Actually, Ron Hunter, I don't know if you know this, but Ron Hunter still brings his stool when he gets into the tournament that he fell off of when his son, I think, hit that game-winning three. But anyways, I see this bracket too, and I'm just curious. Could you because you said this is the hardest bracket, and I can see a bunch of teams getting upset. I could see Houston possibly upsetting Kentucky and everything, and
yep.
And you could. I feel like Northwestern is one of those wild card teams also too. But I just want to know if this bracket is totally chaotic, could we possibly see Washington in the Elite Eight?
Yeah, I think you could. I'm kind of going down. I think Wofford, as a 7th seed, could potentially knock off Kentucky. One thing about this tournament is, and really this year we've talked about it a lot, is, it's pretty top heavy. There's 10 or 15 teams that are really good teams. And then there's, probably 15 through 60 who could all go on a run. And so I think that's what makes this tournament interesting is I think, especially in the early rounds of the first week and the first 4 days, I think you could see a lot of lower seeds coming out of there, playing well, having tested themselves. I think the big question is how strong are the mid-majors this year, because I think the committee didn't take them that they were that strong. But, if the mid-majors are stronger than people realize, then these mid-majors that made the tournament are going to be well-tested, and playing a Big Ten or a Pac-12 school isn't really going to intimidate them the way people think it may.
Right. Before we get to your Final Four, though, the play-in games. Because you got some interesting...
the play-in games.
Yeah, you have some interesting matchups this year. It's usually the schools that no one cares about. But if you're a Pac-12 fan, especially if you're probably the Pac-12 commissioner, you're you're hoping, which this is going to be this is going to be a good game. Arizona State versus St. John's. You're hoping that you can beat St. John's and have another team in the tournament, so you can at least be like, we got 2 teams in, we got 2, but you also have Belmont versus Temple and North Carolina Central versus Dakota State and Dickerson, a team I've never heard of, versus was it Prairie
View?
Prairie View. I got that kind of screwed up there. Because I'm looking at all abbreviations and stuff, like Arizona State and Temple are like the ones that really are spelled out in my bracket. So what are your thoughts on these play-in games? Because it looks like this is the first year we had some really good matchups of teams you actually know of.
Right. And I think there is a stat, 5 out of the 6 years they've done the play-in games, one of those teams has gone on to win a second game. And for me, I like the winner of that Belmont-Temple game to knock off Maryland in the first round. Belmont, again, one of those mid-major that flies under the radar. They didn't win their conference tournament. They lost to Murray State, so they got an at-large bid. And then Temple, they play in the AAC, which you and I have talked a decent amount about this year, and AAC got 4 teams in. So that's definitely a strong tournament. Shiz Alston is a really good player for Temple, who I think could lead them on a run. Arizona State, you mentioned getting in. I think maybe a little bit of a surprise. If Pac-12 ended up getting 3 teams in, Oregon knocked off Washington in the conference championship to get the automatic bid. So, Arizona State's pretty balanced. They got 3 or 4 guards. Edwards, Rob Edwards is one, and then the freshman, blanking on his name, but they're pretty balanced. And then St. John's has Shamari Pons, who a little bit like Marcus Howard and Ja Morant is kind of a one-man wrecking crew, can go off for 40 points when he needs. So, that's going to be one of those games where, you watch that game to see a star play and see if he can lead his team, into the next round, into the next day. The 16 seed games, I don't really know much about them. They're kind of just games to get people playing and eliminate one of the bad teams early on. So we'll see. I think Duke and Gonzaga will dispose of whichever teams come out of that.
Right. Final four, your Final Four.
Yeah, so my Final Four, I've got Duke playing Florida State, and I got Virginia playing Kentucky. So I have 3 ACC schools, maybe not necessarily the 3 that people would expect.
Right.
But I just think the ACC has been so good this year and so tested. And, I think Duke's freshmen are on a mission to win a national championship in their 1 year. I think Florida State's depth is great for them. And you saw the way they pressed out against Virginia and made Virginia look uncomfortable, which – nobody's done in 30 games to Virginia this year. So that was really impressive. Virginia, I think, is on a redemption tour after last year. I think those guards, Jerome and Guy, are really motivated to prove last year was a huge fluke. And then, like I said, Kentucky. I really like Kentucky's talent. I think as long as Ashton Hagans plays, above average or great, they're a tough team to beat, and they're going to be a tough team to score on with his defensive pressure he applies.
Now, what do you? I'm just curious. Who do you think is going to be in the national championship?
I am going to think we're going to get a Duke Virginia rematch.
Interesting. That would be a good national championship.
It would be unbelievable. And I don't really know who would win that one. I think Duke would be a little more comfortable on the big stage, but I think Virginia could stay within their game and be who they are. I don't really know. For me, when I kind of do my bracket predictions, I usually stop around the Final Four because I just feel like I end up picking Duke to win almost every year. But I do really like this Virginia team, and I would not be surprised at all to see them win the national championship with Kyle Guy, DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome. They've got the role players, Jack Salt, Braxton Key, Diakite. Virginia really, really plays good basketball, and as long as they're hitting shots, which obviously has been their downfall in the tournament, but has not been downfall for them this season, they're going to be in a position to win every game they play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that pretty much sums it up for the brackets. I thought it was pretty interesting yesterday. Well, I thought, just kind of, you had Selection Sunday and you had St. Patrick's Day all on the same day. So if you're Irish,
it was a heck of a day.
Yeah, it was a heck of a day. Before I let you go, I want to ask you this because I heard through the SEC grapevine that Vanderbilt Stadium is one of like the worst stadiums to see a basketball game, and frankly, it just looks awkward on TV when you see it on TV.
Yep.
So I could see that. What has been like the worst like stadium? Now, I'm not talking about like rival stadiums or anything like that, but I'm more talking about like actually going to a stadium to see a game that you've been at.
I haven't been to a ton of venues now that I'm thinking this question out loud.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't really know what the worst one I've been to is. Like I said, I mean, I haven't been to a ton of games. I go to games down at Tech. I've been to Cameron. Actually went and saw the St. Louis Billikens play, which is appropriate for what we're talking today. So that's a tough one for me to answer. I will say I loved the old Thriller Dome where Georgia Tech used to play. That was an awesome place to see a game. There were no bad seats there. But I mean, I can understand the Vandy thought process. I mean, I think it's weird enough with the baskets or with the benches under the baskets. I mean, it totally changes the way you coach and approach the game.
Right.
And that's just a little bit weird. And with the students kind of right there on the floor, it's probably a little bit fun for them, but it's also probably a little bit tough to see the floor and see what's going on when you're that close. And it almost backfires if you pay that much money to get that close. So, I don't have a great answer for that.
So the venues that you've been to, you haven't had a bad experience. Well, that's good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I haven't had a bad experience. I've been even to the Georgia Dome when they played the tournament there.
Right.
And I mean, even that does a pretty good job. Obviously, it's a little tougher because it's so big and it's meant for football. But I think all the venues for the NCAA tournament do a good job, and they just, the bench on the floor is a little bit weird, but I think he's got to get adjusted to it and be good to go.
I actually went to a Elite Eight game. When it was at the Dome, and oh my gosh, I was like, we were up in the nosebleed section. I was like, man, this looks so small. So
yeah, I mean, it's weird, and I mean, the players say it's kind of weird to shoot on a backboard like that, just the background being off. But to get that many people in a stadium to watch a game is always a pretty cool thing.
Right. Yeah, next year when they have it at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they're gonna have like the whole stadium open, and so they can put as many people as in there as possible. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, you'll literally, if you have a ticket and you're in the nosebleed section, you'll need binoculars for that. Well, thank you, Ned, for coming on the show talking college hoops and national tournament. This is March Madness started last week, but now we're going to have the continuation on to March Madness. So thanks for being on the show. Where can we reach you at on social media?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at the real Ned Kasich. Florida fans, don't come bashing me too hard if you guys pick up the win. But
just blame me.
Find me on the Twitterverse.
Blame me because I kind of started that. So
there we go. Perfect. No problem blaming you.
You can come after me all you want, Florida fans. I really don't care. So
I say that again.
I said you can come after me, Florida fans. I really don't care.
There you go.
I mean, we beat you 2 straight years in football, so I just that's what I have to say. So, anyways, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to talking to you next week and how this all shakes up.
Anytime. Enjoy the best 4 years of the sports weekends.
Right. Exactly. We're gonna ride you, Ned, all the way out to the national championship if you're cool with that.
Love it.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show. I know we kind of gave some shade to Frank DeBoer. I look forward to seeing where the future goes with him, and I think he's the right guy for Atlanta United. Has a lot of experience being a manager or whatever I think they call them managers. They don't call them head coaches over there. But he's one of those guys too that looks really good in a suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it's like it makes you want to. Seeing Frank DeBoer and seeing like his wardrobe, because I saw Wednesday night he was wearing like the cardigan sweater, and I was like, man, that looks good. Like it makes you want to go wear a suit.
Awesome.
I mean, he's one of those guys that he just you know what I mean? Like you see a guy in a suit and you're just like, I want to go get a suit, or let me wear my suit.
Right.
And then you realize, oh, now I know why he looks so good in a suit, because his physique complements it, and you're just like, ooh, my beer gut kind of sticks out in this.
Right.
Now I'm probably
in the suit for me.
Yeah, now people are thinking that it's like I'm probably this guy overweight. You know what I mean? Because have you heard that thing like I have a face for radio?
Nice.
I've heard otherwise, that I don't really have a face for radio. And I started out. So with that being said, this is the end of the show. This is the ATL. It's like So, yeah, that being said, like, subscribe, comment. The like button goes a long way, so especially if you're listening to this part of the show, definitely hit that. That would be super helpful. Also, we would love to get subscribers. Like I said, we're trying to get this podcast out to people that want to listen to hear about the we want to get in the comment section. Tell me what you thought about the stuff in the comment section, because we would love to hear from you here at the ATLBox Score. We're probably the only sports outlet that produces the So, but put that in the comment section. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your thoughts. This, we just appreciate you guys listening to it. Well, just hanging out with us if you're in traffic today, and this is the ATLBox Score. Episode 39 is out.